Part one is over. Part two begins. All right, this is part two of the week 7 podcast. Here we go. You simply cannot help someone who will not help him or herself. All you can do is wish them well, speak well of them to others. First and above all, be a friend to yourself. This is based on some Stoic wisdom. So I have a lot of wisdom from leadership psychology, like John Maxwell and Dale Carnegie. And I've also got a lot of wisdom from other places as well, like um, Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, was also a profound philosopher. And same can be said for Robert Pirsig, who wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, as well as an intro blurb into the Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. And Stoicism is a field of philosophy that's been around for thousands of years, and one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers was Seneca. He said, or Marcus Aurelius was the other one. You can look up Stoic philosophy, or you can go to my book list, STL Pareto.com/list. That's par, like you're golfing, and ETO like GTO, the car, except E like elephant. Be a friend to yourself first. In, I think it was Hamlet, one of the characters says, first and above all, to thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. And the same, I think being a friend to yourself is pretty much being true to yourself. They're pretty much the same thing. Being true to yourself and being a friend to yourself. Like when you look in the mirror in the morning and you look in the mirror, does that person look like a friend? Does that person look like an ally? Because the three-dimensional world is ultimately polar. It operates in two extremes, and you can't be thinking both at the same time. So if it's not a good relationship with yourself, if yourself is not your friend and your ally, your comrade, your buddy, your pal, your friend, then it's your enemy, and you don't want to make an enemy of yourself. That's what you don't want. That's what you don't want. Because once you're a friend to yourself, you can speak well of others. And someone who speaks well of others is a magnet for friendship, because everyone wants to be friends with someone who's always speaking well of others. All you can do is wish them well. You simply cannot help someone who will not help him or herself. This boils down to the power of perspective again, I suppose, because you may be thinking that a problem is a problem when it's not. You may be thinking that a problem is a problem when it's not. You simply cannot help someone who will not help him or herself. So first you've got to acknowledge, does that someone actually need helping at all? Does that someone actually need helping at all? Because if that someone does not actually need help at all, and you try to force your alternative perspective upon them, That's why mutual understanding is so important. That's why idea meritocracy is core value 3, because when you understand me, I understand you, and we place that value as the number one value for both of us. It works out. It works out very well in relationships, and that pretty much eliminates adversity. As long as you and the other person can both get it through your thick skulls, you simply cannot help someone who will not help him or herself. Does this person need help at all? Boils down to the power of perspective. Again, think of a central point and a circle, and think of there being like a straight line at a 90-degree angle right there from the center out to the edge. That's your perspective. And if the circle rotates, so do you. Just because someone else has another perspective does not mean they're wrong. Does not mean good, bad, bad, good. I've really learned to transcend morality, and I mean that not in a good way. I mean, not in a bad way, but in a positive way that's actually beneficial to myself, to other people, to community at large, globally speaking. I can actually offer to myself more of others by taking a new perspective. By literally literally placing myself in the other person's shoes, taking a new perspective, and using that new perspective to engage in less fear and more love to myself. It seems like people out there don't want you to love yourself. I think that's ridiculous. If you don't love yourself, who will? If you expect that your boyfriend or girlfriend or future whoever, or maybe just a regular friend that you have, maybe on your sports team or whatever, that you have a friend, do you rely on that other person to give you the love that you want to feel inside? Do you believe there's a limit or a bound to love? Because as far as I'm concerned, anything less than unconditional, complete acceptance is not actual love. Do you fully accept yourself? Because if you don't, you'll never be able to fully accept anyone else. And if you don't fully accept anyone else, then it's you're not gonna you basically are gonna either be making assumptions very often, which is going to cause you to experience fear, or you're going to be afraid outright, and that fear is going to cause you to make more assumptions, to make yourself right. An assumption is basically like putting a big wall between your personal perspective, your personal truth, and your objective truth or average truth. You're putting up a big barrier when you make that assumption. Thought is the origin of both mental and physical action, from value to belief to thought. Enjoying life is an algorithm of neurochemistry. All chance is just causality yet to be comprehended. Three types of knowledge that is more condensed is also more valuable premium content. So check this out. I've got some premium content on my website. It's not finished yet. You can join the waiting list if you want to. Knowledge that is more condensed is also more valuable. So what that means is that basically knowledge is just condensed information if you think about it. You probably, if you went to school, you probably have some knowledge of something. You may have done calculus, you may have done trigonometry, you may have done just algebra. There are properties and laws, and the laws of mathematics are purely mental. It's important to understand that they are true laws. They are true laws about purely mental things. You understand? Purely mental things. What is mental? You look up a little bit about non-locality on your own later on. I don't want to get into it necessarily, but the laws of psychology, like those put out by John Maxwell and Dale Carnegie, those, as far as I'm concerned, those are laws, and they're no less important than laws of gravity. They're no less important than laws of uh, light. Light, electromagnetism has laws too. If you take a magnet, there's a bunch of nails on the road over there, and you take a magnet, the magnet sucks them up because of laws. Now, how are those laws any more important than laws of psychology or mathematics? You tell me. To me, those laws are all laws, are all laws, are all laws. I don't see any difference between the laws that are all laws. And there are three laws of flowing momentum. Flowing momentum is a matter of ongoing adaptation, first and foremost. You respect the fact that all things are changing all the time. There's another one called the long clock of now, which I've also already mentioned in an earlier video. And the long clock of now explains the fact that basically having a past and a present are not really an accurate, like, science has told us this for many years, and you've gone up into school since 3, 4, 5, 10 years old. You've been taught that the future and the past and the present, and um, time works that way, and it's downright false. And I'm encouraging you to check out the book for yourself. Anyway, that phase one, or law number one, the first part, is ongoing adaptation. You respect, because these are all about respect as well. So respect is a value of mine, but it's more like a sub-value that I call principle. So respect is actually the first principle of idea meritocracy, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned. Re-spin off, remake your own thing, and that's kind of what being a content creator is all about. I encourage other people to go out and be creators, and you know, um, there's enough. I think I put this in an earlier video as well. There's enough consumers out there. You don't want to necessarily be a consumer all the time. Consumers make up a mass of the marketplace, and if you just want to blend in, okay, go ahead. Because I respect whatever you want to do, but I'm saying if you want to live a more enlightened life, a better life, the good life, it may be to your benefit to have some knowledge, because knowledge is also stored in the subconscious. So what I'm trying to say is not only does those subconscious memories boil up into the conscious thoughts that we have on a daily basis, but also it impacts our electromagnetism. It impacts these fields of light around us that are very physically real. They're very physically real. I mean, if if I picked up a rock and with that rock I threw it at your chest, and the rock was so large that your chest, turned purple and you got a bruise for 2 days. Let's suppose that that happened and that was real, physically. Let's suppose that I come up to you and I say a bunch of nasty words, things that simply shouldn't be said to somebody, hurtful words, words that I used simply because I wanted you to experience pain. And the thing is, pain is pain is pain is pain. There's a professor at University UCLA, and he wrote a book called Social. It's actually geared at it's written in a very logical format. It's a great book, and it's also on the book list. And Social explains the fact that pain is pain is pain. And we're going to talk about in three types of knowledge why if you disagree with me, it doesn't matter, because that's your personal truth and it's not objective truth. And just because the average truth, let's say that everybody else in your doesn't know about whatever they don't know about, and that's what three types of knowledge are about. It's in your ebook, Best in the World, Why I Am, How You Can Be Too. Social. Being social is important to understand that pain is pain is pain. And social pain is no different than physical pain. Because when that rock reaches your chest, it sends a nerve signal. First and foremost, a nerve signal gets sent through what's called the somatic nervous system. Now, the nervous system is made up of a bunch of multiple systems, and the somatic nervous system is only one of those. Okay? But the somatic nervous system sends that signal up to the brain, the central nervous system, to the spinal cord, and eventually to the brain. The brain interprets this signal, and depending on the severity of the signal, starts distributing pain. And pain is just a matter of neurochemistry, is all it is. Just like pleasure is for the most part a matter of neurochemistry. If you eat chocolate, you're going to like it. It's going to make you happy a little bit inside. It's going to change your brain a little bit inside. Just like a drug, like alcohol. If you drink alcohol, it'll release some pleasure chemicals. If you eat chocolate, it releases some pleasure chemicals. And likewise, if you engage in certain conversation, flowing momentum can also be a conversational art form, of which I am also world class. You're welcome. And what I'm trying to say there is that the jury is still out as to whether your wave function, because we know the world is non-local. We know the world is non-local, and that means that all material it doesn't mean that physics can adapt, although it probably will in the beginning. it more or less means that all physics should be blown away. And it's something that's very, very difficult to take in and accept. It's something that's even still difficult for me to take in and accept, but it's nonetheless a fact that all of physics pretty much goes away with this new science of non-locality. Once again, I'm not an expert on it necessarily, but then again, who is? So by all means, go and check it out. It's also on the book list. The non-local universe is one of my favorites. Flowing momentum, ongoing adaptation, and the law of change. So in next week's video, you'll be able to check out the second law, or if you want to skip ahead, it's in your free ebook, Best in the World, Why I Am How You Can Be Too.